And we are on the home stretch. So there isn't that much to introduce, so I decided to also throw in the passive as well. Because basically what we're just doing now is we're just taking everything that you did in the first two days, and we're just adding more versions of it, more or less. Because when we get to what are called complex sentences, really that's all it is. Now there are two different now the basic idea is that you have separate clauses, or separate clauses, and clauses are, think of them as clauses as thoughts, like completed thoughts, or whole thoughts, more or less. So think of a simple sentence as a completed thought. Puer puellam pulsat. Now, this could be a sentence all by itself. The boy punches the girl. You don't need to add anything else to this sentence, but you can add something else to the sentence. And the way that you do that is by taking this clause. A clause can be a sentence all by itself, and adding another clause after a conjunction. So, puer puellam pulsat, the boy punches the girl, and the girl cries. Now you could say the girl cries. That would be a perfectly complete sentence. But if you want to make the sentence, more complex, then as the author of our wonderful book often does, then you can need to add a conjunction and a separate clause, and it will all be part of one sentence. It will be a multi-clausal sentence, basically. So I'm pretty sure that's fairly simple. Boy punches girl, and the girl cries. Okay, well let's try it with a different preposition. I'm only adding all of these just because I'm trying to be like, there are more not prepositions, conjugations. There are more conjugations, conjunctions. You know what? I'm just gonna keep that take. We're just gonna keep going. We're gonna get through this together. Don't worry. So, et, yam, sed, and quia are all different conjunctions. Got it. Conjunctions. And there were called coordinating conjunctions. I'll get to the difference between the two of these in a second. But what these conjunctions do is they basically allow you to have a first clause and then add another one in the sentence. But obviously they all mean different things. The only reason for why I included all these is just because I didn't want you guys to get dissuaded. It's like, wait, Mr. Herb only did stuff with et. He didn't tell me what quia meant, even though I can see that quia means because in the back or whatever. But either way, just to go through these briefly, puer puellam pulsat, the boy punches the girl. Now the girl is crying. Puer puellam pulsat, sed puella ridet. The boy punches the girl, but the girl laughs. Puer puellam pulsat, quia puella cantat. The boy punches the girl because the girl is singing. All right, so those are all coordinating conjunctions. You see, there are two different types. Why did I say subjunctions? That doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. Either way, so there's a big difference between coordinating and subordinating conjunctions. All these are what are called coordinating conjunctions. So what they basically do is you take two complete sentences that are completely that can work completely on their own. You don't need anything else to make this a complete sentence. You don't need anything else to make this complete sentences, and it coordinates them. So think about how, like with coordination on a football field, the players have to coordinate with each other. Now they can do whatever it is that they're doing by themselves, but it certainly helps. They can certainly help out their whole gameplay if they have if they work in a coordinated manner. And they'll be better than a team that isn't well coordinated. So Julius, hang on. So puer puellam pulsat is a complete sentence. Puella plorat is a complete clause or a complete sentence, and et coordinates the two. However, you can also do what are called subordinating conjunctions. What subordinating conjunctions do is they introduce another complete clause, but the clause is dependent on the larger sentence. So think about it as sort of like a sentence within a sentence. So these are two sentences right next to each other. One is the first part, one is the second part, but this isn't the first part and then this being the second part. This part is within this part. Okay. So how do I translate this, Mr. Herb? Well, I'm glad that you asked because it's not that difficult, all things considered. Usually the subordinating conjunctions that I use in most of my stuff, and that you will probably run into most frequently in the book, is going to be variations of this word right here, qui. So qui becomes cuius in the genitive, it becomes cui in the dative, quem, quam, quod, or whatever in the accusative, so on and so forth. All of these introduce what is called a relative clause. Now, a relative clause, I can explain what a relative clause is another day. For now, all you need to do is know that a relative clause is a subordinated clause. What this means is that without the bigger sentence at large, this clause right here could not make sense. And let's translate it like that. So Julius, who accepts or receives many gifts, is a good man. Vir bonus est. Good man is... So Julius is a good man. Now Julius is a good man, so Julius vir bonus est. That is a complete sentence. It's the independent clause. It's not dependent on anything else. However, this qui dona multa accipit, or accipit, isn't a complete sentence all by itself. Who accepts many gifts? Now, if this was a question, who accepts many gifts? Like, who would do that? Then sure, that's a complete sentence. But this isn't a question. This is a relative clause. And because of that fact, without this larger sentence as a whole, you could never actually... this would never be a complete sentence. So qui dona multa accipit would never be a complete sentence. So let's go to the next one just to have another example. So Marcus, cuius mater Aemilia est, puer improbus est. For these, what might be a good idea is to sort of translate the outer sentence first so that you get an idea of what the whole sentence is about. So for this, Marcus puer improbus est. Marcus is a bad boy. Now, of course, this doesn't have to just be a simple est or sunt sentence. It can be one of the sentences that you had to do last time with all this complexity. In fact, I could, if I wanted to be mean, just sort of say filius improbus, then add a qui in here, and then do some form of another relative clause, and then you would still have to translate the whole sentence as normal, but I don't think I did that on pretty much any of the words. But anyway, so I would suggest translating the outer sentence first, the sort of independent part of the sentence, and then doing the little part. So Marcus puer improbus est means Marcus is a bad boy. And so cuius mater Aemilia est means whose mother is Aemilia, or of whom the mother is Aemilia. Now, cuius is probably one of the more confusing words to translate into English because whose just doesn't sound right. But either way, the way you would translate this would be Marcus, whose mother is Aemilia, is a bad boy. So who is the mother of Marcus? It's Aemilia. All right. Now, just to go through this last thing, I wanted to remind everyone the way passive sentences work. So if you remember, an active sentence works like this, where you have the subject, which is in the nominative case, the object, which is in the accusative case, and then the verb, which has this little t or nt ending. However, the verb in the passive voice has this ter or enter ending, or ntur, I guess you would say. And the subject is still nominative, but instead of having a normal object, you would have the word ab, and then a word in the ablative case. So this would, instead of being, this would just become puella pulsator a puero, which means the girl is punched by the boy. All right.